Roots of combat. Before MMA had gloves, contracts, or walkout songs, it had dirt floors and blood-soaked sand. The first organized fights date back thousands of years. In ancient Mesopotamia, cave paintings show men squaring up in something that looks suspiciously like a stand-up wall. Then there's Pancration in ancient Greece, arguably MMA's spiritual grandfather. No rounds, no time limits, just two guys in loincloths grappling until one tapped or napped. If you think today's fighters are tough, try taking elbows to the skull with no mouthguard and a 50,000-seat Colosseum booing you in ancient Greek. Then across Asia, you had Shui Jiao in China mixing throws and strikes, Mui Boran in Thailand turning bodies into weapons, and Malayuddha in India, which looked like a wrestling match held during an ayahuasca trip. Even the Vikings were doing it. They called it Gleima. It was like wrestling, but you were also trying not to get beheaded. Bottom line, the human urge to throw hands is older than agriculture. MMA just gave it a spotlight and a license. Style versus style. Let's time jump to the 20th century when martial arts turned into turf wars. This was when everyone thought their style was the holy grail of combat. Karate dudes believed one clean front kick could paralyze you. Boxers trusted their jab could solve world hunger. And kung fu masters? They were basically anime characters in their own minds. Enter the Gracie family in Brazil, who said, "Nah, none of y'all can grapple." Helio Gracie, physically weaker due to illness, developed Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the art of folding people like fresh laundry. The Gracie challenge was born, come to our gym and we'll choke you for free. And guess what? They did. They recorded it too. Meanwhile, in the US and Japan, people were experimenting. Bruce Lee was low-key preaching MMA decades ahead of time with his Jeet Kune Do saying, "Use what works." But no one listened. They were too busy perfecting their kata forms and roundhouse kicks. These style wars were the prequel to MMA, a bunch of martial arts nerds arguing until someone showed up with a double leg takedown and ended the debate in 20 seconds. UFC 1. Then came UFC 1, a Frankenstein's monster of combat sports stitched together by Art Davie, Rorion Gracie, and a crew of madmen. The concept: take 8 martial artists, remove weight classes, remove most rules, put them in a cage, and let the world watch. The event was sold as a pay-per-view blood sport. One fighter wore one boxing glove, seriously. One wore a sumo diaper, and another looked like a Mortal Kombat NPC. Royce Gracie, this lean 170-pound dude in a bathrobe, walked in and absolutely manhandled dudes twice his size. He didn't punch much. He didn't kick. He just clinched, dragged, and strangled them like he was late for dinner. Fans were hooked. Commentators were confused. Politicians were horrified. And martial arts would never be the same again. Royce Gracie didn't just win a tournament, he rewired people's understanding of what actually works in a fight. The Dark Ages. After UFC 1, things got messy. Literally and figuratively. The UFC promoted brutality and the fights delivered. No gloves, no rounds, no ref interference unless someone died. Enter Senator John McCain, who infamously labeled MMA human cockfighting. TV networks pulled out, athletic commissions banned events, and suddenly MMA was the black sheep of sports. UFC events were being held in D-rate casinos, sketchy towns, and places where even the hot dogs were suspect. The rules were vague, fighters were tougher than nails but underpaid and unregulated. Meanwhile in Japan, PRIDEFC was doing the opposite. Massive crowds, epic entrances. Soccer kicks to the face were legal and encouraged. Fighters like Vanderlei Silva, Mirko Cro Cop, and Fedor Emelianenko became mythical warriors. It was violent, it was theatrical, it was glorious. If UFC was backyard fights with bad lighting, Pride was WWE meets gladiator combat with way more concussions. The Zuffa era. In 2001, the UFC was circling the drain financially. Then along came Dana White, a brash boxing coach, and the Fertitta brothers, casino moguls with deep pockets and a love for combat. They bought the UFC for $2 million, basically a rounding error in Vegas terms. They cleaned it up, added unified rules, rounds, gloves, banned eye gouges finally. Slowly, state commissions started approving events again. But what truly flipped the script was The Ultimate Fighter in 2005. A reality TV show that followed 16 fighters living in a house, drinking too much, arguing over dishes, and then trying to punch each other into title contention. The Forrest Griffin versus Stephan Bonnar finale was an absolute war. It wasn't clean, it wasn't technical, but it was hard, and the fans felt it. That one fight got the UFC a new TV deal, thousands of new fans, and a second chance at life. Golden Age. This era is why we have MMA posters on our walls. Anderson Silva turned striking into sorcery. He looked like he was fighting in the Matrix while everyone else was buffering on dial-up. George St. Pierre, or GSP, dominated with jab takedown repeat. A Canadian gentleman who made violence look like a TED Talk. BJ Penn had a jiu-jitsu black belt, boxing skills, and zero respect for weight classes. John Jones showed up with reach, rage, and some unfortunate legal hobbies, but inside the cage, he was untouchable. Cain Velasquez looked like the heavyweight future until injuries reminded us he was human. Ronda Rousey came in and started breaking records in arms in under 30 seconds. Then Holly Holm kicked her face off and started a new chapter. Conor McGregor brought the mouth, the movement, and the millions. Left hands, loud suits, and legendary sound bites. This wasn't just MMA, it was superhero combat with real stakes. Legends were born every card. Global takeover. The UFC had grown out of its Las Vegas bubble, now it was planting flags globally. Khabib from Dagestan choked everyone like it was his birthright and walked away 29-0 with barely a bruise. Israel Adesanya, the style bender, danced his way to a belt and made elite striking look like Fortnite. Amanda Nunes cleared out 2 divisions and retired legends like she was collecting Infinity Stones. Max Holloway landed 445 strikes in one fight and still found time to taunt mid-round. Stipe, the humble firefighter, became the most successful heavyweight champ in UFC history. Meanwhile, countries like Russia, Australia, Nigeria, and China started pumping out monsters who weren't just good, they were title-worthy. MMA officially became a global buffet of beatdowns. Current era. Today's MMA, it's a circus, a glorious, chaotic, occasionally cringe-worthy circus. Sean O'Malley became champ with rainbow braids, sugar show swagger, and sniper-like precision. Love him or hate him, he's built for the camera and the cage. Islam Makhachev picked up the torch from Khabib, added head kicks to the Dagestani game plan, and now rules the lightweight division with calm dominance and terrifying control. Alex Pereira stormed into MMA from kickboxing, knocked out the last boss, Adesanya, jumped to light heavyweight, and took that belt too, without ever breaking a smirk. Ilia Topuria turned heads with highlight knockouts, meme-worthy confidence, and enough swagger to call out legends. He didn't just beat Volkanovski and Holloway, he made it look inevitable. Shavkat Rakhmonov, the silent assassin from Kazakhstan, is quietly demolishing the welterweight division without saying much, because his fists and chokes do all the talking. Yuri Prochazka, the samurai spirit in human form, brought unorthodox violence and wild mysticism to the light heavyweight title picture, all with a hairdo that looks like it came from a fantasy novel. Meanwhile, YouTubers are still boxing, influencers are headlining events, and slap fighting is inexplicably still a thing. Somewhere, a Muay Thai master is weeping into his elbow pads. But like it or not, this is modern MMA. Equal parts elite talent and chaotic energy. A weird, wonderful spectacle where anyone can become a meme or a legend overnight. MMA started in the dirt, rose through the shadows, went global, and now sits at the head of combat sports with a crown made of cauliflower ears. And if this wild history has taught us anything, it's that the next era will be even weirder, probably in the metaverse with robot refs. See you in the next round.